היי נועה.
היי.
אוקיי, רציתי לדעת ששומעים אותי כי אני בנסיעה, ואני עם אוזניות ולא יודעת אם זה או לא. אני אהיה על מיוט.
היי אלישבע.
אהלן.
מה העניינים?
בסדר, מזמן לא התראינו.
נכון.
בזום.
הזום בכלל. מה שלומך?
בסדר, כן. מנסים לנווט בין הבפנים לבחוץ.
אני מנסה עכשיו, בשלב זה, לפתוח את הפגישה הזאת, ומופיעים לי על הזום כל מיני דברים, שאני לא יודעת לעשות איתם שום דבר.
מה כתוב לך?
This meeting has been live streamed. לעשות גוטית?
כן.
גוטית. יופי, נשארה אלישבע.
זה טוב, שהם תרגילים את זה, זה טוב.
אז
את השימוש במחשב ובזה, זה טוב.
זהו, אז כבר ערכתי, יעני, 2-3 פגישות כאלה, והייתי מאוד גאה בעצמי.
בדיוק.
ואז עברו כמה חודשים.
ושכח.
היום הייתי צריכה לפתוח את זה, והייתי צריכה לקרוא לעזרה.
בסדר.
אז קראתי לעזרה, פחות או יותר.
זה גם תרגול לקרוא לעזרה.
עכשיו פתחתי נורא מוקדם בשביל שהכל ייכנס והכל יהיה פיקס. היי אנילה.
Hello, Noah, and everybody else.
So nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. Great.
We missed you.
Well, come on, you had a really nice break.
We
And
missed
also, you know, there was so many other things are going on. I don't know how you can still have a private life with all these Dharma teachings going. Actually, I think you wouldn't need the 7th chapter about enthusiasm because, you know, I know that many of you are following many Dharma activities. So then that's it. That means practicing enthusiasm.
I'm sure I don't know about others. About me, I still have about what to learn.
Yeah, to learn, yeah, but it's about, you know, about spending out time with the Dharma activities. So then we have to talk about today, what are Dharma activities? So anyway, so this is the first time for the Bodhichitta after the summer break that I'm in my new temporary home. So there's no more taras behind me, as you can see, because it's just a completely normal apartment. It's not a Dharma center.
Just a moment, I will make you co-host.
Okay, yeah, so I can show the text.
Yes, okay. So, shall I begin with my normal words?
Well, if you want, if you have to, if you want, if it makes you happy, why not?
It makes the I don't know. Someone it makes happy. Okay. So
someone it makes happy. Yeah, this is yeah. So let's rejoice about the someone, whoever that is, who will be happy when Noah does her
Great.
usual speech.
So hello everybody, and we are happy to have again meetings with Anila. I'm Noah, and I will try to be the host of these meetings. We are going to learn the 7th chapter of the Bodhisattva way of life. After we are all very patient after the 6th chapter.
Yeah.
And what else? These meetings will be every week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock. You are all invited, of course. And it's all made by Dana. You can make Dana by PayPal and give Dana. It's I find it the most, הדרך הכי נוחה זה לעשות העברה בנקאית, יש את המספר חשבון בנק בידידי הדרמה למטה. It was much more quickly in Igbo, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, well, I have nothing, I have nothing against it. So it's okay. You do whatever you need to do.
No, it's just the way of doing it. It's much more easy for me to say than Igbo, I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. I don't have to hear what you're saying, or I don't have to understand. Maybe this is, would be a way to learn Hebrew, so then I would know in Hebrew about Dana and about PayPal and about this and that. And
you understand it. I know that you understand. Your Hebrew is quite okay. Your Hebrew is quite okay.
Yeah, no, Hebrew is quite okay also. Good. So for those maybe who are new, because there are some people who are new, so what we are doing here, we're taking this beautiful text by Shantideva, which can be, of course, it can be used for your daily life, but it's quite, especially now 7th and then the 8th chapter, they're quite, in a way, heavy. Let's be honest. So please, if it's not just for bodhisattvas, I think. Of course, it says it's a guide to the way of a bodhisattva. So if you have decided you are a bodhisattva, that some of you have, because that I also know, some of you are here, you know exactly what that means and what that means. I want to, as quickly as possible, attain full awakening. On what is full awakening or what is full enlightenment? Again, a big question is like to be totally liberated from being under the control of our unhelpful emotions. And the main one is, of course, wrong use. So, holding on to a really existing autonomous, permanent, self-sufficient I, me, not thinking that there is no I or there is no me. There is a conventional I, so don't forget that one. Or also this kind of dualistic thinking. Here's me and here's everybody else outside, or whatever I see exists like really the way it appears to my mind, meaning separate from my mind. These kind of wrong views. These are all lie at the root of our problems. Yeah. So for bodhicitta, of course, is like, this is when we will have Lamrim teachings, I think, and also Venerable Karzom is giving you Lamrim teachings. So you don't start with bodhicitta. You don't start with this attitude. Yes, I want to attain, I want to be a bodhisattva and I want to attain enlightenment as quickly as possible. Because first you need to know how to look after yourself. First you need to understand what it means to be in samsara. Otherwise, very, very quickly it becomes, I don't want to look at my own problems and I don't want to look at my own, if I call them kleshas, is that okay? Because, I still haven't found a proper English word for this. negative emotions, but what is negative? Then we all go, oh, bad, bad, I'm not allowed to have this or that or whatever, which is not. What else do they say? Afflictions, delusions, mental poisons. This is a good one, maybe, but then I always have to find something. But if I say klesha, what can somebody explain to me what? Oh yeah, this is also what I wanted to say. Also, you will notice I'm totally chaotic. I just say whatever comes in my mind, but also not only me talking, okay? So this is not a teaching class here. This is a discussion class, because it is very important that if you want to integrate that in your daily life so that you're not breaking your neck and you're not then worse off than we were from the beginning, you know, we need to discuss what it actually means in our daily life, because most of it is just attitudes. And then it's not very practical in that kind of lifestyle that we have to apply it. So we really need to discuss this properly, right? So what did I want to say? Okay, so then you all have anything to say. You can really say what you think, or what, you know, if you're against it, or if you think this really doesn't make sense, or, oh, that is really good. We can also affirm that what we do, when we practice, that it's okay. So if I use the word klesha, some of you are experienced Dharma practitioners. If somebody says, oh, klesha, what is it? New pizza? Ice cream?
It's supposed to be,
Huh?
it's a kind of a suffer, any suffer, I mean.
Okay, Sigal says it's a kind of suffering.
It's some kind of a thought with, can you hear me?
Yeah.
With some emotion or some energy attached to it, that it's either attachment or aversion that that has some self-cherishing at its root, and hooks us into something that either pulls us toward it or pushes us in a way that is creates suffering.
Okay, let me be a little bit nasty when you say push or pull. Yeah, it pushes us towards suffering. Okay, that was needed at the end, because we can have a very strong push or pull towards full awakening or liberation, which then that would not be a klesha. Okay, so that's good. Okay, all of it's good. Anybody else? The definition of nyermong or klesha, which, as I said, there's so many translations in English for that. So, Elisheva?
I was thinking about maybe trying to find happiness in the wrong way, or
yeah, that's true. And we're talking about long-term happiness. Yeah, we're talking about well-being, long-term happiness, free from suffering, actually. Okay, so that's also good. But I give you the definition of nyermong. Means a mental state. So it's a mental state, okay? It's kind of state of mind. The state of mind which we will make a meditation or a reflection, that you again will have to really look in what mental state am I at the moment. And not coming up with any kind of, you know, stories to sound interesting or whatever, just to be really honest. So it's a mental state that usually when not much is going on, and when we're not feeling bored, then our mental state is a little bit like a mirror who reflects. So when it's calm and open, it reflects more or less what is there. But then nyermong is something, or like a delusion or an afflictive emotion or a klesha. Klesha is in Sanskrit. Is when it comes up, it has the force by itself, the power by itself, to make this calm and clear mind disturbed, unsubdued, and the most important thing, it distorts. It distorts reality. Like Tal, is that your name? Are you tall? Okay, because sometimes
Yes.
people use their other people's and I don't think I know you, so this is why I have to check. Do I know you? Maybe from.
We've met times before, but not.
Yeah.
Not.
And you most probably have been my mother in previous lifetimes, and also my enemy, and also my, everything. But anyway.
Gave you a lot of.
Okay, so when it comes up in the mind to make that calm mental state unsubdued and distorted, this is the main thing. Anybody has an idea how it distorts? How, for example, attachment distorts reality? Hi, Sigal. You can't hear me yet, I think. Hi, Sigal. Anybody? How does attachment distort? What does it do?
It makes us think that our happiness is depends on something external in a way that is unrealistic.
Okay. Yeah, it exaggerates the good sides, and it doesn't want to see the negative sides. Right, this is attachment in a simple way, what the attachment is doing. Then aversion, anger, hatred, whatever, is only seeing the negative sides, doesn't want to see, it exaggerates those. So this is why, we talked a lot about anger in the previous chapter about patience. And we, constantly talking about how it distorts reality, how it makes the situation much worse than it is, how it doesn't see the benefit of the situation. And on top of it, it's only the other person's fault, always, never my fault. And also what is with anger, how it distorts, when I am angry at somebody else, I'm always justified. Yeah. If somebody else is angry at me, is never justified. So anger is anger. So why is it when it goes this way that it's justified, and when it comes that way that it's not justified, that one could deal with it in another way? Yeah, so a little bit like this. So this is a klesha, something that distorts. And then we act it out, like we act as if the distortion is reality. And then, of course, we create imprints or karmic seeds or whatever you want to call them, which then at one point ripen, and they result when just exactly, I don't need to see negative emotion. If I just say klesha, yeah, if we act out of with the klesha behind, well, like the force was a klesha, then of course we don't get what we want. It's like the same thing is coming back to us. Or we develop a tendency to again and again and again act like this. That's why the kleshas are dangerous, and we are totally under the control of these kleshas. Yeah, so this is what liberation would mean. So we need to understand first, before we develop bodhicitta, that me also, I'm under the control of these, attachment, anger, wrong views, jealousy, miserliness, arrogance. There's the whole list of these things. Me also, I am under the control of those, but I want to get out of it. This should be the first thought. And then when we have this, when we have really understood what it means to be in that, to be in that state where we have very little freedom how we react to situations. Sometimes, of course, we can cook up a good motivation. I'm not denying that. But when we look deep down, behind it is still kind of self-concern. So this is what we need to have. We had a chair practice today, and so I was asked. Also, we hadn't met for a long time, so also on Zoom. So I was asking somebody how I was asking all of them, how are you? And so one of them said, "Oh, samsara." So I said, "Yeah, okay, what's going on?" So she has bought an apartment which is totally wet, like damp, humid. And the person who has owned it before, she didn't say anything. So, you know, now is the big thing, who has to pay for these renovations and what, and, or am I going, of course, you know, the first thought is that, oh, I'm just going to put it on sale again and then not tell anybody, and then they can look after it, things like this. So when we encounter things like this, when we don't get what we want, then we say, oh, this is samsara, right? Very often. When everything goes well, and we come to that today, then we're not so convinced that that this is samsara. You know, then we go, well, you know, everything is nice. And yeah, even, you know, Dharma practitioners, that we can turn everything around. Everything can be beneficial, very, you know, very difficult situations. And this is, it's the first thing, you know, that people use is when they're not well. Oh, I'm purifying negative karma. It's very true. But are you really saying that as a consolation, or are you really convinced that you are purifying negative karma? So it makes us actually stop creating more negative karma. So whenever you use it, please, you know, I broke my wrist, right? So many people say, oh, wow, you arrived in the new place. Immediately you start to purify. I say, well, yeah, you know, but we're not so happy with it. We should be happy, you know, when we say, oh, isn't this happening to us or to me? I'm purifying negative karma. So we won't accuse anybody anymore of harming us or not being nice to us or whatever, but we want to have, you know, both of kind of thing. Or anyway, I think we start, because now probably everybody's here wants to participate. So we start with the reflection again, you know, as I keep saying, if we don't have any self-awareness, which needs to be trained, we have to sit and just watch the mind, whether we want or not, without any fear that anything unpleasant is coming up. But also not, you know, don't become the perfect person. You know, you meditate and you think you will have no more anger and no more attachment and this and that. And then because in your head, you think you should be like this, because, you know, you make very quick progress with the meditation, then you start to suppress these things and then they can't transform. So it's like, we have to be careful when we sit down to meditate. Don't have any purpose, actually, you know, like, again, you know, Buddhism is so full of contradictions, because at the beginning we have to have a motivation which goes very far to enlightenment and all this, and then I'm telling you, you should sit down and kind of train awareness without any purpose. So you need a lot of wisdom also in Buddhism to see what I'm saying and where to and how to apply it, because both of it applies. Of course, we need to see very far. Of course, we need to kind of know that we want to become Buddhas. But if we want that too quickly, we get all tense and all stressed. And then instead of Buddhas, we're the stressed Buddhists. Maybe you know some of them, you know, who they judge themselves when they get angry or feel attachment. They don't allow themselves any pleasures anymore and all this. We don't want to become like this, okay? So this is what the 7th chapter is all about. It's about having joy in your practice. It's called joyful effort sometimes, or enthusiasm or diligence, something like that. So we'll do a bit of training in awareness. So you sit with a straight back, as comfortable as you can. And then with awareness, there's always this thing about being present. But we need to have a willingness to be present. And this you have to check if it's there. And whatever arises, to kind of watch it with curiosity. Not interfering, but noticing. So that we start to understand how our mind works. And we start to see the nature of these so-called kleshas, or any mind state. They're all depending on something, they're all impermanent. We all nourish them with our thoughts, opinions, views, attitudes. And that can go into something wholesome or something that leads to happiness, well-being, or it can, maybe feel like happiness or well-being short-term, but then long-term, it again turns into suffering. So there's no way we can get around this. You can know all the texts backward and forward. If you don't have this ability to just sit with yourself and watch your mind, nothing will transform. Don't meditate to fix yourself, to heal yourself, to improve yourself. Rather do it because you want to become a good friend of yourself. So try to generate a friendly feeling towards yourself. That this is a good thing what you're doing, not just this evening, but you make so much effort to listen and study and practice. This is so amazing, You're such amazing people. And very often, unfortunately, you don't honor it or you don't recognize it. So try to become very open and very soft. So that maybe, the mind of a grandmother who looks at her grandchildren playing, knowing that they are not in danger. A little bit like that. Or you can take another image, doesn't matter. Make sure you are relaxed. So first thing, that's the body. So you can use your breath also. When you're breathing in, you'll become aware of certain sensations. When you're breathing out, you think the body becomes bigger, open, spacious. As you breathe out, you think you breathe out all the tensions. No need to hold them. And then as you turn your attention, maybe first towards your breathing, so that the mind does become calm, clear, not judging. It's very simple, but not so easy to do because the mind likes to think, to judge, to have opinions. So let go, if possible. And just notice every in-breath and every out-breath. Maybe something that can help to make the breath a little bit more interesting is when we think about all these people around the world who are on these breathing machines because they can't breathe by themselves anymore or just on oxygen. So we start to appreciate, wow, I can breathe freely. How wonderful. The mind wanders away, you just bring it back to that awareness. Wow, I have air that I can breathe without coughing, without choking. I have lungs that can take in the air, take in the oxygen, and then, breathe out whatever is not needed. Isn't that wonderful? And then, because unfortunately we don't have so much time, I'm just showing you the techniques you can use. You turn your attention towards your mind state. And just notice how you feel. It can be described by a word, by a landscape, by a color, by an animal. It's not just a word, but an image or something like that. Then we have to look a little bit closer to be a bit more precise. And then something which will be very helpful for you when you think you're overcome by strong emotions that you don't really want to have. Now turn your attention towards the thing or the one that is looking what kind of mind state you are in. I know it's not so easy, but just try. And then try maybe notice if there is a difference between the one who is watching what mind state you are in and the mind state itself. And then slowly, slowly, as you come out of the chat, as you come out of the meditation, or maybe the chat that you had with yourself, then you can put in the chat, this is where the word came from, put in the chat how you would describe your mind state, so that we also share with others, and we do make this exercise quite, how to say, honest. Okay, anybody?
I'm sharing.
Very calm, okay. It's not, again, don't go, this is good, this is bad. It's just the way it is, so.
I first I want to say I'm I'm just giving a person. I know Tal and Edward from Yaki's lessons. They don't know me because I'm watching their classes, but I know them, so I'm just saying that. So I just want to say I felt like my heart is filled with love to everybody. So that was because the voice you had when you were talking, the people I saw on the screen, I was just filled with love. That was my state.
Thank you. So please know that you're all loved by Nomi. So that's wonderful. Thank you. It's good to know that Nomi at the moment has an open heart. But again, it's good to know, but it changes again. So it's just, this is good for, from neuroscience, they say when you have moments like this, then it's really good to keep them, or to put in this self-awareness thing, to really know, to be aware of it as long as possible, because they say the neurons then wire with each other. So we get more used to these kind of mind states than self-concern and the whole rest, like anger, attachment, fear, especially. Because when the mind state is like this, pretty much everything, it's much easier to do, most of it also. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? I'm looking a bit like Dr. Mabuse, I think, isn't it? I need to figure out at one point what kind of light I have to put on so that you can see me properly. Attraction to release, letting go, but restricted, framed by bodily restriction. Mosquito bites. Ooh, yeah, this is not so pleasant, isn't it? Especially when you have one during the meditation, when you have one going. I don't know. You've been in India, Edward? You've been in Bodh Gaya?
No, I've been to India once, but for a very short while.
Okay, and not during the mosquito time.
No, but I've experienced mosquitoes in many places too.
Yeah, but like in Bodh Gaya, maybe somebody who has been to Bodh Gaya can kind of confirm that. There's especially a lot of mosquitoes, like clouds of mosquitoes around you. And so this is why everybody has repellent or a mosquito net. There's these mosquito nets to meditate outside at the stupa, which are just like a little tent that you can go under. And then it's interesting to see that you hear the mosquito, bzzz, but you're totally calm because you know that they cannot come in. So it's a little bit, it has to do also with our mind state. When we have the antidotes ready, then although we see that, anger is arising, but we're not afraid of it, or we're not, we can deal with it in a good and in a proper way. Yeah, but sometimes just one mosquito can be so upsetting, isn't it? Anybody else? Maybe I'm trying to get the lamp here. There's no light from above. This is the problem. There's lots of lamps in this studio, but there's no direct light from above. Oopa. No. Yeah, maybe it's a bit better, isn't it? Okay. I only have one arm, as you can see, on top of it. I mean, I have two, but one is one is not usable. Okay, we have another one here. No, this is what is. Anybody else? Sigal, how is your mind state? Come on, don't be shy.
Okay, so I was really overloaded, and I was sitting, and it was so uncomfortable that I couldn't just stay there, and I had to lay down, and I did the rest of meditation laying down. And the physical experience of being supported gave my mind the peace of mind I needed.
Mhm.
So I was just, it was like floating,
Nice. Okay.
completely and supported.
Yeah. This is it's very good what you're saying, Sigal, because that's a very good antidote when you are overcome by strong emotions, is to really ground yourself, to feel, if you're sitting on a chair, to feel your feet on the floor, if you're sitting on the floor, to feel your bum on the floor, or even, you know, touch something like this, to feel how the earth is supporting you. Somehow it seems to open up a little bit, and then we're not, you know, we're not just I, me, because when the emotions are very strong, we seem to forget other people, and then it's just me or I there. So that's a very good antidote, actually, to feel how the earth is supporting us. Okay, anybody else? No? Okay. So how about we go into the text? So we have done 6 chapters until now, not necessarily, you know, with you guys. That, like, you know, the first, I think it was until chapter 5, I did in Israel. So we did like one weekend. We did one weekend for one chapter, which is not so much. Now we used 1.5 years for the 6th chapter, because sometimes we just do one. Sometimes we just do one verse. So
must have taken patience.
it must have taken patience, but I think it was really worthwhile, because it's, you know, we don't know how long this situation with the COVID will last. So it's good. Then we have something to talk about. Just to recap, a recapitulation, the first chapter is talking about the benefits of bodhicitta. So it's as if, and don't forget, Shantideva is talking to himself. He is not saying you should do. Yeah, he kind of made this text to for us to maybe take from it. Which translation are we using? I think this is from Stephen Batchelor. But if you have other translations, it's fine. Actually, it's good to have a few translations, so then sometimes we can compare. But that's the only one I have, like, ready-made on the computer. And actually, I can, if you want, I can put it in the chat, and then you can download it. One thing is, it's for non-native English-speaking people, I find this the most simple one. Maybe not the most accurate one, but it's really understandable. Alex Berzin is very elaborate, and sometimes, you know, I need to take the German translation to understand what he wants to say, or this translation. Then there's another one by the Padmas Samskara, I think, translation group. And of course, there's this one from Pema Chodron's book, which I use a lot for the commentary, which is called maybe The Way of a Bodhisattva. In German, it's called It's Never Too Late.
No lose in English.
Hmm?
No time to lose.
No time to lose. Okay. That's a very beautiful translation, also very beautiful commentary, of which I'm quoting quite a bit, actually. Okay, so the first chapter.
Yeah? I would love it if you'll add the how do you say, the thing in the chat.
The text. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a sec.
Thank you.
Oh, that wasn't the right one.
I could paste links to the books while you're teaching.
Oh, I got it. Okay, here we go. Okay, there it is. So you can just download it. Thank you, Tal. Anyway, so first one is the, it talks about the benefits of bodhicitta so that we get going. And then because bodhicitta, like this mind wanting to lead all mother sentient beings to full awakening, I mean, we can imagine that this is a very difficult mind to, okay, thank you. Oh, it's right, Pema Children. Okay, great. Thank you. So it's a very difficult mind to develop. So chapter 2 and 3 is mostly talking about the 7-limb practice. I don't know if anybody is familiar with this. The 7-limb practice that one uses a lot when one starts with practices and things like that. Now, first one is prostration or like showing devotion. Second one is making offerings. The third one is confessing all our negative deeds. The fourth one is rejoicing. The fifth and sixth is asking the Buddhas to remain and teach, to have a long life and to teach. And the seventh is the dedication. So we reaffirm to ourselves why we are doing this. So if you have the whole text, it's really good to go back all the way back to the beginning, because the chapter 2 and 3, and it talks about refuge, also talks about death a lot. It really gets him or us going in order to be able then to make the decision and say, yes, I want to behave like a bodhisattva, and therefore I want to take the bodhisattva vows. So that's chapter 2 and 3. Like, even, making the field even by purifying a lot of negative karma, by taking refuge, confessing the sins, thinking about death and all this, so that then the seeds that he will put with the bodhicitta will kind of fall into a good ground. Yeah. So that's chapter 1, 2, and 3 is like at the beginning of bodhicitta. At the end of chapter 3, he has developed bodhicitta. He has really made the decision, yes, this is what I want, this is the way I'm going. Again, why? The main reason for this is so that he can repay the kindness that he's aware that he has received, like from so many lifetimes, from so many sentient beings, basically from everybody. Now, after chapter 3, he has developed bodhicitta. So he needs to sustain this bodhicitta, and that's chapter 4 and 5, which is conscientiousness and awareness. So sometimes it's translated a little bit different, but it's okay. And it's especially about ethical conduct. He says how one behaves as a bodhisattva. And the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva is a little bit different from the ethical conduct that you have in the lower scope of the Lamrim. In the lower scope of the Lamrim, it's enough not to harm others, and that already is ethical conduct. Very often people say, oh, only this? Well, that's not very significant. I think it's very significant. Can you imagine if everybody would walk around with the intention not to harm anybody, what kind of world we would have? We wouldn't need to lock our doors or have a police or nobody would get murdered or raped or whatever. I think that would be a good thing already. So don't underestimate that by thinking, oh no, this is too easy for me. I want to be the bodhisattva. I want to be, like this. First thing we have to learn is to keep ethical conduct for our own sake, not out of fear, but out of compassion for ourselves, so that we don't suffer in the future. Because if you don't care about yourself, if you're not taking care of your actions now because you don't want to suffer in the future, I mean, how can you really care about others? Then it becomes just like, again, caring with a lot of attachment. And when the people turn against you or they dislike you or whatever, then we don't care about them anymore. Yeah, so this is really important. So the ethical conduct in the lower scope is just not to harm others, whereas the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva is to help as much as you can, but basically already now, and especially to put an effort into developing kind of positive states of mind, virtuous states of mind. Yeah, so it's a little bit a little bit different. So when you look at the 6 perfections, because what the text is all about is to help us practice these 6 perfections. So when you look at the ethical conduct, like it's divided, I think, into 4, if I remember well. It's like purifying the negative karma that you have already done. That is one of the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva. Accumulating a lot of virtues. So he's doing a lot of offerings, pleasing the Buddhas in that chapter, accumulating virtue. And the 3rd one, helping others. And then, of course, developing love for all beings. So this is the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva, especially getting rid of all obstacles that we have for being able to live our values spontaneously. Because we all have values, isn't it? And we like these values of being a loving person, values of, being generous, being ethical, being patient, being wise, being kind. We have this, isn't it? If we could buy it, would you buy it? Would you spend money for it? Or do you rather want to go the hard way and, 3 countless eons in order to become a Buddha? Would you buy it if we could buy these, if we could buy something that then we are able to live these values spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and effortlessly, but without agenda, without wanting anything, just because it has become not our second nature, but our first nature. I would spend probably all my money for that, because then I would be okay, wouldn't it? But we can't buy it, so we have to develop it. So we all have values, but it's really a shame that we can't live them. So then this is why one is doing these practices, so then that it comes spontaneously. But we already do have some values that I think we can live effortlessly. It's like we wouldn't go around killing people, wouldn't we? I mean, we have pretty much the people who are following these teachings and are on these courses, they have pretty much tamed their body, I would say, isn't it? You wouldn't kill somebody just because that person gets on your nerves, but it happens again and again and again. People are so frustrated and the body is not subdued or not tamed, that with the body, then they kill somebody. Or stealing, some people, they just steal whatever comes into, wherever there is an occasion to steal, and then they take. Or sexual misconduct also, like, I had a friend of mine, she had an affair with another man, and I didn't say anything. I just looked at her and she said, oh, but they don't have sex anymore anyway. So I just said, so what? I mean, it's like, come on, he's married. It's like, yeah. So a little bit like this, but I hope like none of you is kind of just following their sexual desires and then just going to bed with whoever comes your way. Yeah. So we can be happy that our body is already subdued. Yeah? So that's chapter 4 and 5, talks especially about the ethical conduct of a bodhisattva. And then chapter 6, of course, is patience. So that is the 3rd of the 6 perfections. And then the 7th, which is enthusiasm, is now. We come to that. Okay. And also, another thing I wanted to say, also there is a reason why the perfections are kind of in this way. Of course, in order for it to become, of course, for your action to become a perfection, you have to kind of include the other 5 perfections in a way. And this is easiest to understand with generosity. So would anybody like to try to tell me how generosity becomes an action of perfection? Would anybody like to do that? How does an action of generosity become perfect? Noah? Oh. Come on,
I am not sure I got your question. How an action of generosity
becomes the perfection of generosity.
Like doing it for many times and
okay, you know, it becomes a perfection when the other 5 perfections are included. So try.
When I'm
Of course, generosity is giving something. So that's the first of the 6 perfections. Then the next perfection is ethical conduct, isn't it? So what would that mean?
I'm giving something that is mine and I'm not stealing anything.
Exactly.
And then I'm giving with happiness. And
that would be what? Patience? The next perfection is patience.
I know. I'm just giving it and not. I'm not sorry that I gave. I'm giving it with happiness. That.
Okay, patience. Usually, one would say when there's patience involved, you're not giving it. We're wanting anything back. You know, the person is not all over you saying thank you 100,000 times and like that.
Yeah. Just giving for giving.
Yeah, right. And then enthusiasm would, you know, you would give again and again and again with joy, because enthusiasm is with, you know, performing virtue with joy. Concentration would be what?
Giving with concentration. I'm not sure how to combine it.
Yeah, then we know what to give. You know, like you wouldn't invite the Theravadin monk for dinner because you know that they're not eating afternoon.
Of course.
You wouldn't give a terrorist weapons. You wouldn't give necessarily, you know, somebody wants to kill somebody and they don't have anything to kill them. You wouldn't give them the knife or something like that.
So you mean giving with thinking?
Yeah, right. Giving with concentration, you know, not just, as you said, I think you said not just to throw, but really being mindful of giving. And also when we give, it's so important that we become aware, this person who needs something now from me, they give me the opportunity to practice the perfection of generosity. Otherwise, how am I going to practice that? You know, instead of feeling so great, you kind of go, wow, this person is creating a cause for me to become a Buddha. Isn't that wonderful? So we should actually turn it around. It's us who have to say thank you. And because, you know, in long terms, it's like for us, it's much more beneficial than for the other one that we give 2 shekel. Well, if it's a beggar. Right, then with wisdom, how would you give with wisdom? Of course, it's talking about the perfection of wisdom, which is all about emptiness.
Giving someone something without seeing me giving him, like it's like I'm giving and he's a part of me, so it's a kind of not giving without saying it as giving.
Okay, well, usually one talks about the 3 spheres. So maybe anybody heard about the 3 spheres?
Like, I'm not sure, but I know that I'm not sure, but I know that Garten Rinpoche is explaining that when you give and you remember that the 3 things are not really exist, like the giver, the thing that you give, and the one that accepts it, all is empty. So this is like giving with
this is giving with wisdom. And they told us the 3 spheres, that I, the one who's giving, what I'm giving, the one who is receiving, all three spheres or three things are totally empty of any inherent existence. Okay, good. So then it's quite complicated to do Bodhisattva's deed. So it's not so simple. For it to become a cause for full awakening, which are these 6 perfections, it's a training, isn't it? I mean, it's not so much, we don't have to be perfect, but this is a training of a Bodhisattva to then be a Buddha. When you are perfect in this, then you are a Buddha. Whereas now we're still in training. So if we don't succeed immediately and all the time, don't worry so much, it's okay.
Anila?
Yes?
Maybe there's another way I think we could look at it. I wonder what you think, if it's the right way. So I think about it as it's all those perfections are just different, in different angles on the same thing, or if you wish, of Buddhahood, like a different mountain will have different sides to it. So let's say if we realize the perfection of generosity, it means that our mind is constantly and uninterruptedly always focused on others and giving others and not on ourselves. And in order to do it perfectly, it means that we need to uproot our afflictions from the root, which means we need to realize wisdom and concentration. And if we're at that space, it's impossible to lose our patience or to have any ethical flow, etc., or be tired and not work joyfully and enthusiastically. So in order to really get to the very perfection of each one of these, we just need to have a perfect state of mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's also right. Yeah. And these 6 perfections is quite good, because practicing generosity is the easiest. So this is why it comes first, right? So once we've done that, already we're much less attached to our possessions. Then it is easier to keep ethical conduct, meaning not to harm and not to steal and not to get angry when somebody takes away our things. Yeah, because when we practice generosity, then already now it creates the karma that we don't have to fight for our possessions all the time. So then it's easier to keep ethical conduct. When you keep ethical conduct, maybe not, the next day, but maybe already in this life, or even in future lives, we need to have this conviction that this is so. Then we don't get harmed so much. And when we don't get harmed so much, it's much easier to practice patience. People always think that, they can only practice patience when really bad things are happening in their life. But then we're not trained enough. And then, we get angry whether we want or not. So then with practicing patience, then you see that because for practicing patience, you increase your courage of not reacting in a negative way. Then enthusiasm and joy in the practice comes much quicker. And then with this joy, it's much easier to actually develop shine, or what's it called? Single-pointed concentration, which is the concentration part. And then with that, to realize emptiness, which is the most difficult one. Yeah, so this is why also they are in that order, because each one supports the other one. Okay. So if you do have, if you have something to say, for those who maybe don't know, you can just open your microphone and you can just say. But let's look at least at the next few verses, so that also, again, we can stop in time. I usually try to stop after an hour and a half. If it's too long for you, if you prefer it to be shorter, is also fine. We can also, it's totally, you can tell me what you prefer. So the first verse is, having patience, I should develop enthusiasm. So this is the next one. For awakening will dwell only in those who exert themselves, just as there is no movement without wind. So merit does not occur without enthusiasm. And enthusiasm really is joyful effort. So that means whatever virtue we do, if we do it out of duty, or because we want to impress somebody, and there is no joy in it, then then very difficult then it's like when they talk about the wind here, then it's like having a sailboat, but there's no wind and we're not making progress. So I think it's really good to hear that from time to time, especially me when I started to prepare this morning, because I forget sometimes. And how can we, what do you think? I mean, how can we develop joy in what we're doing here? You're tired, you have full life, you go to work, and then on top of it, you have to listen to Dharma teachings in the evening, and you have to sit and meditate. And as Sigal was saying, it's uncomfortable because you're tired, you're stressed, you're tense. So how can you develop joy? Huh?
Maybe if something, or if the approach is that everything will contribute to my development and will bring opportunities for learning and practicing.
Exactly. When we talk, we think again and again about the result, but there's a big but there. Do you remember the 3 kinds of patience that we talked about last chapter? What is one kind of patience also of these 3 kinds? Don't feel bad if you don't remember, it's okay. Or just say something, we don't have this is right and this is wrong. Do you remember any of the 3 kinds of patience? Okay, anybody? No? Okay. One thing, the easiest one is to be patient with, like, mosquitoes where you can't do much, heat, cold, things that are kind of in your environment. So these are, we're not getting angry at the rain when we are outside without an umbrella, right? But if somebody throws a bucket of water over us, or somebody drives by with a car and it goes whoosh and you're totally wet, then you would get angry. I mean, water is water. Being wet is being wet. But this is, he constantly talks about this. Why am I getting angry in this situation and not in that situation? So anyway, so that's the first kind of patience, kind of to endure, to increase our courage, not to change outer conditions again and again and again and again. For example, air conditions in Israel, it's like, either it's too hot and then it's too cold and then somebody turns it around, especially in the Dharma groups. When you're a group and you're trying to meditate, there's noise kind of nodding. It's like some, they really love it when it's cold, so they must have been penguins in their past lives. Others, they like it when it's warm, so then there must have been monkeys in their past lives or something. And so it's like, some are sitting there totally comfortable, others are sitting there with their blankets around them, and they're all in the same room. So this is a very good example. And we're trying to get the perfect temperature, or, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm just giving you some examples. Or when you take a shower in the morning, maybe not so much in Israel because it's warm, but definitely here in Switzerland, it's starting to get cold. So, how much water goes down the drain until you had the perfect kind of temperature from the tap coming. You just want to wash yourself. I'm talking about me here, okay? So because everybody's doing that, and we do it very mindlessly in a way, because we want to have the perfect, we want to be comfortable, and this is also one hindrance to enthusiasm. So when we think about why we are when we're doing this, why, and then why we should do it with joy, is like looking forward to something, but that might be very, very far away. And the danger there is when we constantly, I'm doing this because I want to attain enlightenment. Then again, it becomes kind of impure, isn't it, in a way? Still, it's good to know that this will make me evolve. This will give me what I want to be. This will make me be able to live my values. But then on the other hand, I don't know. If it's not putting more stress and more frustration on us when we do that. I think maybe for me, I'm just, most of the time I talk about what I think, and it's not necessarily right. So this is why you can object. When I'm conscious of what I'm doing, and when I see how I feel in that moment, when I am being generous, when I am being kind, then I feel that there is naturally some joy in it. Because I'm living my values. So I think this helps me the best. Or when I just, don't even have to look that much in the future, but when I look in the past, and when I remember these actions without comparing myself with other people, that's very important also, right? So when I just look at these actions, and then I really, there's a good feeling. There's a lot of joy in that. So for me, this really helps to kind of think, if you have done the action properly, then you will feel joyful, because this is how I want to be. I mean, these are the values that I would like to have. Okay, so merit does not occur without enthusiasm, and enthusiasm here means really joyful. Okay, so the first verse is actually just defining what enthusiasm, sometimes it's also translated as diligence. Do you know the word diligence? Okay, you know what it means? I mean, can you give me the definition of it? It's not helpful if you give me the Hebrew word, because I won't understand. But how would you describe diligence to somebody who says, oh, I don't know what that means? You try to use other words that go with it, or also an image, if you want.
I think diligence is also connected with patience in a way, because I don't know how to say it in English beside this. I know the words in Hebrew. But...
yeah, patience goes well with it, yeah. Not getting impatient when things don't go the way we want them to go.
It's also courage sometimes.
Okay, bye, Tal. Have a nice evening. Anyway, we won't continue that much longer. Yeah, it's like not giving up also. Having this strength of endurance is a good word also.
That's the definition in Hebrew. Being very endurant and not stopping what you're doing. And exactly. It's an antidote of laziness, it says.
Yeah, just to endure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is sometimes this chapter is also called diligence, and it's called joyous effort also. So the joy I find very good. Effort I don't like so much, because when we talk about effort, it's always like, well, diligence seems to be a good thing. So then, second verse is, what is enthusiasm? It is finding joy in what is wholesome. Its opposing factors are explained as, and here we have 4, as laziness, attraction to what is bad, and despising oneself out of despondency. Now, I have other translation here from Geshe Tenzin Zopa, because I don't like this much, so attraction to what is bad. I would prefer attraction to what leads to suffering, but heroic perseverance means delight in virtue. So he talks about heroic perseverance, Geshe Tenzin Zopa, actually, not diligence and not enthusiasm. It is finding joy in what is wholesome, means delight in virtue, is contrary, it's contrary to laziness, an inclination. Here he says, instead of attraction to what is bad, he says, for unwholesome ways, and despondency is, and despising oneself out of despondency. So sometimes these two things, despising oneself out of despondency, are kind of are divided into two. Yeah, like, so one talks about different kind of lazinesses. So one of the lazinesses is just being lazy, liking to have it really comfortable and all this. You know, liking to sleep long or not doing anything, things like that. So that's one of the lazinesses. Another laziness is being attached to being busy. And this is probably what we suffer from. You know, always kind of keep going, keep going. We all want to have peace and we all want to have rest. But just maybe that would be the homework for you, because I always give them homework to observe a little bit. So that will be your homework, to just check when you would have a moment of not doing anything. What are you doing? And then noticing it and then leaving it aside, and maybe just for 2-3 minutes, just sit and don't do anything. But to feel that, to feel the push that we have, to feel they call it Shempa, you know, Shempa, being attracted to unwholesome things or being attracted to things that even we know that they are not giving us what we actually want, but the force behind it is so strong that it doesn't, we can't resist. Even intellectually, we know it's not a good thing. So maybe that would be the homework for until next Wednesday, that you observe that when you would have a moment where you don't have to put on the TV, to do nothing, right? Meaning not even practicing Dharma, not even listening to the Dalai Lama or anything like that. You just sit and watch your mind. This is something you can do, because there's nothing, we cannot not do anything. Yeah. So that's the second laziness. The third laziness, or the third obstacle here, is despondency. Is like from the beginning, you're hopeless. You know, you're kind of is what is this, and this not going to work. And anyway, nobody is a Buddha, and it's normal for human beings to be kind of angry and attached and all this, you know, this kind of hopelessness. And the fourth one is not having enough self-confidence that you're able to do it. So these are the four, obstacles or sources of the hindrances to having enthusiasm, joyful effort, or diligence. Is that kind of clear? Yeah. So we have to be careful about them, because once we know the causes, then we can overcome these obstacles. But if we don't know, like the obstacle, which is basically is laziness, if we don't know the causes, then it's very difficult to overcome them. Do we all agree that this is that this could be an obstacle to enthusiasm? These four things. If you don't, then just say so. Okay, then we look at the third verse and then maybe we stop, okay? So because of attachment to the pleasurable tastes of idleness, because of craving for sleep, and because of having no delusion of cyclic existence, laziness grows very strong. So in his commentary, the Dalai Lama says, in order to overcome the obstacles, we need to know the causes. So one of these causes that we are not we're not getting on as much as we could or want with our Dharma practice is that we take things for granted. Have you ever noticed that, yeah, we all believe in death. We all know that we're going to die. We have maybe even understood and maybe accept that the time of death is totally uncertain. But the third of these points, that only the Dharma helps at the time of death, I'm not sure if I have really realized that. Or also when I imagine myself as, next life, as in what form do you think that you will be reborn? Do we, I'm including myself, do we really take into consideration that we could be reborn as a hell being, a hungry ghost, or as an animal? Isn't it that me, I'm talking myself, I see myself, if I look at my like instinctive thinking, not, not kind of intellectual or intelligent thinking, not Dharma thinking. My instinctive thinking is, or Palestinian. Do you see yourself as being reborn as a Palestinian, or when you are a man as a man, or when you're white as a black person, or, even you like this, then, I see myself human, maybe Tibetan, yes, so I can already start very young with the practice, and I will have conditions for practicing, and I will continue with the practice. I mean, this is so unrealistic, yeah? And this can be a great hindrance when we think, yeah, but life is okay. Maybe you don't have that problem so much in Israel. But here in Switzerland, I tell you, I mean, people are not interested in transforming their mind. Life is so easy. Life is so nice, We had a POA retreat with the Pagyap Rinpoche the other day, and it was in a ski resort in Anzer. Rinpoche was talking about the sufferings of humans, and he started crying. I mean, not long, but he started to have tears in his eyes. And I was wondering why. And I was really wondering because, we were maybe 30 people in the retreat, and 200, 300 people you see every day, they come with their mountain bikes, and then they go paragliding, which is really dangerous. They can lose their life with doing these things that are totally useless. So sometimes I think the lamas also are quite sad when we see, especially here in Switzerland, how people totally waste their time with these things that are so useless. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have any pleasure, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do any sport, but not every moment of your free time. And can you imagine all the money that goes with this? I used to do a lot of skiing. I used to climb rocks and all this. I am so happy that I don't have to do this anymore. But it's very, very difficult to talk to a person. I mean, I wouldn't dream of talking to a person like this. And on top of it, we destroyed the environment. The mountains are becoming more and more busy with more and more machines and this and that. There's not many people who just go hiking. You need a scooter that you can then race downhill, or you need a sledge, or even in the summer, and in the winter, of course. I mean, the mountains are for the wild animals. It's really difficult. But when you talk about these people, do you ever think about death? Do you ever think that you could develop your mind to go like, why? I'm happy. What are you talking about? Most of my schoolmates, when I see them, who have all become either doctors or lawyers, or they're in the government or whatever, and then they see me and say, what are you doing? So it's like, yeah, then I tell them, well, I'm a Buddhist nun, and I try to transform my mind and all this. And then they go, wow, yeah, this is very nice, but I don't need this. Have you ever met people like this? Who kind of go, but why should I? Everything is okay. Yeah. So this is also one of the lazinesses that sometimes, we say, oh, no, everything is okay. I can relax. And sometimes we can be too satisfied with the things we have. So there you go again, we should be satisfied, but then not too satisfied. Or with the things we have, is okay. But with our mind state, sometimes we are too satisfied and say, yeah, but look, I'm not getting so angry anymore. And yeah, I'm not attached. I gave away all my things and this and that. So yeah. So this is one of the problems in the developed countries. That our lifestyle has become so high and so good that as a bodhisattva, especially when we live in a developed country like this, we have to be careful that our goals are going beyond our living standards. And most of the time, if you look at governments and You know, I mean, the whole climate, the whole pandemic, the whole climate change and all this. I mean, where is the interest going? It goes into, but now we have to be okay. Now we have to have comfort. If people in the third world country, it's being like in the Godrium, it's exactly. You know, we go like, if people in the third country, well, yeah, I know they suffer and they get all our pollution, but yeah, well, what can I do about this? You know, a little bit this kind of attitude. So as a Bodhisattva, we really have to look beyond our living standards or daily comfort. Is that more or less clear? Yeah.
Can I add something here, please?
Yes, please do, Edouard. This is what this is for.
What you're saying about people declaring they're happy, they're usually, most of us, I mean, it's the same in Israel, there have been many surveys on it. People declare themselves happy.
Yeah.
It's, oh yeah, I'm all right. But when they are asked about the community they live in, whether their neighborhood, their city, their country, then they are full of resentment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people think that people like to think that they're happy. I mean, you know, it's enough you ask somebody, how are you? When they say, oh, very well. But then the kind of the conversation continues. You don't even have to ask. You know, they start complaining about something. Yeah. So again, we have to make sure also not to fall into that trap. And because this is how this third verse actually then continues. Yeah, so because attachment to the pleasure taste of idleness, which is like pleasures, because of craving of sleep, because of having no delusion with the misery of cyclic existence. So yes, maybe at the moment everything is going well, but we don't know for how long. I think the pandemic and the climate change, it really shows that we are thinking we are safe and, you know, the government will look after us. I'm talking about Swiss people here. Government will look after us and everything will be okay, but it's absolutely not like this. So it's not just, you know, good human rebirth is like getting out of samsara as quickly as possible. But if we have no delusion with the misery of cyclic existence, laziness grows very strong. So then again, you know, if we think, okay, if I have to think about suffering of samsara again and again and again and again, will it not make me depressed? Have you ever meditated for like a longer period of time, like, you know, 1 week or 1 month or maybe even a few months, just on renunciation, meaning just on dukkha? Have you ever done that? No, try. It's very powerful. Yeah, because it's not that we're getting depressed, maybe at the beginning, but then we become, in a way, much lighter because we're not expecting samsara to be happiness anymore. You know, just before the talk, actually, I was laughing. I thought maybe I can use that as an example. I usually buy fruits and vegetables from farmers who are, you know, who are doing organic farming and are not too big and this and that. So I was cutting an apple who looked beautiful on the outside. I cut it, it was rotten on the inside. And I tell you what, I was surprised. So it's not that the apple was rotten, that's fine. But what I was looking at my surprise, because I know, you know, these are small farmers, they're not using any, you know, they're not spraying this and that. So of course the things get rotten all the time, but I was still surprised. So what I want, you know, I want organic stuff from small farmers, which are not big company. I pay, maybe I'm ready to pay more for it, but then it has to be okay. It has to be as if it would be sprayed, isn't it? I don't want to throw away half of it. So it's good when we look at it in this way, you know, to see that, hey, this is normal that some of these apples are rotten inside, and the farmer didn't cheat you, because also I didn't see that the apple is rotten inside. It was really only rotten inside. It was only half of it, okay? The other half I was able to eat. So, but this is a, you know, this is a good example that we are still surprised when we see that samsara is not going the way we want it to go. And why are we surprised? Because we don't see it in the nature of suffering. Okay. So this is the first 3 verses. They are the most important ones, I think. But then as we go on in the chapter, you know, he gives us antidotes, and he elaborates on these points. What is enthusiasm, and what are the obstacles, and then what are the antidotes for it? So in order to develop enthusiasm, but it can be quite heavy. Now, except for maybe Einat, who I don't really know who you are, Einat, I'm sorry. But all the others, I know that you've heard this before. So you will be able to filter out by yourself what you think is too strong. You know, if people, they think this is an introduction to Buddhism, and we go into the 7th chapter, they are shocked. And then they start to get, when they want to practice it, they are too tense. And too, you know, kind of, oh, I'm not allowed to do this. You know, we have to be careful that we're not developing this attitude of, I'm not allowed to do this, but I don't want to do this because I want to become a Buddha very, very quickly. Yeah. Okay, so do you remember the homework? If you have a moment of not doing anything, that you look at the laziness of being busy. And try to feel that pull. And when you want to reach to the telephone, just 2-3 minutes is maybe not enough. Let's say 5 or 10 minutes, you know, of 24 hours. You say, okay, I have this pull towards the telephone, but I leave it aside. And you'll see how difficult this is, how strong these habits are. Okay. Great, so we do just short dedication so that we can really finish at 8:30. So we sit happily. Although what we hear may be not so pleasant, but Dharma is not made to be pleasant. It's made to get us out of samsara so that we can have bliss, you know, not just pleasure, but a mind who is, there's never, ever again the slightest chance that there will be kind of unhelpful emotions or pleasures arising, to be totally free, like really free from any of these mental poisons. So to really rejoice about this, even though it's difficult, even though it's tough, but we can still do the work with a lot of joy, especially when we think about the Buddha who made it. When we think about our gurus, you know, the His Holiness Dalai Lama, and then who was it, Elisheva, or maybe Hila was talking about Gajin Rinpoche. You know, it's good to think about your gurus from time to time. Just visualize them, connect with them, you know, and then to think, I want to become like them. This is what I want to be. Not just, you know, they are up there on this high place and me, the poor sinner down here. No, I want to become like the Dalai Lama, you know, or other examples that you have. How do I do this? With the Dharma, you know, with the methods, and to develop trust in these methods by really applying them. And then we see they do work. You know, we don't have enough exchange of success. We always talk when it didn't work and all this. We should also share our successes with the Sangha then afterwards. So we just rejoice having spent the last hour and a half talking about enthusiasm, about joy. And just talking about joy kind of brings up joy. And so, you know, the Buddha, nowhere does he talk about guilt and shame and you know, duty or things like that. No, we want to enhance joy so that our worldly pleasure then changes into kind of something wholesome. The mind becomes spacious, which is its nature, light. And why do we want to do this? Because we want to have the skills to lead even beings who are only interested in skiing and rock climbing and paragliding, to inspire those people so that they let go of their worldly activities and turn their mind towards Dharma, and then we can lead them to full enlightenment. Like His Holiness was inspiring me, you know, and then was Khyentse Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, they were inspiring me to let go of these totally useless activities. So I'm doing this because this is the best way to repay the kindness of all the people who made my skis, my ropes, my hooks that I needed in order to do these crazy sports. Or any other thing, you know, my daily, the food I'm eating, whatever. Opa. That was a bit strong. Sorry if I frightened you. I'm not used to the singing bowl yet, so maybe I have to put something around the wooden thing here. Okay, well, thank you very much for participating. Have a good week, and I hope you get many, many moments where you don't have anything to do. So you can watch Shenpa. It's called Shenpa in Tibetan. And Pema Chodron calls it biting the hook when we react to it. Yeah, like the worm is very pleasant, but behind it is always a hook. You know, she talks about fishing. Yeah, so we like the fish, seeing the worm, ooh, this will be pleasant. Or if you give in to Shenpa, again, watch your mind. Also, you know, don't judge, don't get depressed, don't get angry at yourself, but really observe. Yeah. And especially don't get angry at yourself. Honor that you are trying to be a Bodhisattva. That's wonderful. Okay. So thank you, Noah, for having been my host, and maybe see you next week.
Thank you very much.
And take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anila. Thank you very much.
Bye.
You again like that. Not everybody.
תודה.
Good night. לילה טוב.